of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a fairly full agenda this evening. We have all members here with the exception of Tom Anderson this evening. So I'll take a motion to approve the agenda with a major magnitude trip added that we'll add into new business. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? By Todd, second. By Stacy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Consent agenda. We have a number of items on the consent agenda tonight. Check wire transfer and disbursement summary, approval of the school board minutes from February 14th, the board workshop on that same evening, and the regular board meeting on the 28th. Donations, $252 from Karen Decker and Sam Turnus, and Ameriprise Financial's matching donations for Jeffers Pond Elementary. $100 from the Decker family and Ameriprise Financial for the music department at Jeffers Pond. $100 from the Decker family for the Jeffers Pond Elementary second grade classroom. And another $100 from Ameriprise Financial for the Junior Naturalist program at Jeffers Pond. And resignations as shown in your agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
By Rich, second.
Second.
By Lee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 6-0. And we have very special Laker Pride and Laker Showcases this evening.
Yes, we do, and I will call them in. We have a very special treat for you tonight. Sixth graders are here with band director Steve Schmitz to perform for us in honor of Music in Our Schools month. And they're getting set up right now. So welcome.
It's about like an infant and how they can disturb a good night of sleep. This is about a tenth of our sixth grade band. We're at record numbers of 220.
Wow.
castle in Wales in the United Kingdom. I've actually been there. It's very cool. And this music is meant to. So I'll switch.
Thank you for coming and being willing to come out tonight and bring your moms and dads with you to perform for us. This is a great way for us to start our evening and our school board meeting. And just as sixth graders, you've made such progress in 1 year. It's amazing. So way to go. Congratulations. I have certificates for each of them, and I'll let you hand those out. Let's come back.
What's that? I was like, sorry.
I want to play that. No, right here. That's fun. It's like clarinet. Oh, yes. I was confused if that maybe was two of them or something.
This came
I saw it. Progression here. Two of them. Sorry.
Okay. Well, that was terrific. Thank you all. That was a great way to kick off Music in the Schools month. Next, we have a presentation by Twin Oaks Middle School as part of Laker Showcase. So, Mr. Edwards.
Chairman Pratt, members of the board, Dr. Gruber, it's our pleasure to be here tonight to present to you update from Twin Oaks Middle School. As you saw, we had some students here performing, showing their strength and their performance in a variety of ways, and we're going to talk a little bit tonight about some specific academic programs that we've been working on, our staff have been working on. I've got two members of our teaching staff that will be speaking to you in a moment. Tammy Curlow, a 6th grade math teacher, and Melissa Cannell, 7th and 8th grade English teacher. And they'll be sharing some of the strategies that they have put into place this school year to help us move our school forward. And as our title talks about, ensuring learning for all students, our continued journey to become the best we can be. We've really spent a great deal of time this year focusing on collaboration and the role that professional collaboration can have in bringing about school improvement. We began at the beginning of the year with a workshop, some workshop time spent during the opening workshop week, looking at what we can do to ensure learning for all of our students and focusing a lot of our professional development time on that, focusing that on some concepts of a concept called professional learning communities to realize those goals. And as over time the concept of professional learning communities has evolved. When I first became exposed to it over 10 years ago, at that point in time they were asking three key questions, but recently they've added a fourth key question that they think all schools should be considering, and those questions are up there before you. First of all, what is it we want all students to learn? How will we know when each student has mastered the essential learning? How will we respond when a student experiences initial difficulty in learning? And how will we deepen the learning for students who've already mastered essential knowledge and skills? I think that fourth question is one that certainly we've been up here. I know I've been up here in the past year and a half speaking to you as a school board about a number of initiatives in our advanced programming, and I think we're well on our way in implementing the plans in that area. But we also have been focusing on those essential initial three questions as well. And one of the key ways we go about doing that is to get teachers involved in collaborating with each other and helping each other answer these questions. And third area of focus for us this year has been creating and maintaining a positive school climate for staff and students. So how are we meeting our goal? Well, as I mentioned, teacher collaboration is a big key for us, particularly in the areas of reading and math, but also in all subject areas. We've been spending time at that within our building as well as with our Hidden Oaks colleagues. I know that a couple of you have had an opportunity to attend the data retreats that we've done in reading and math with our English and math teachers this year between the Twin Oaks and Hidden Oaks staff, and we're trying to expand upon that. One of the things that I've been focusing my efforts on this year to keep our focus and attention on this concept of ensuring learning for all is my weekly update to staff. I've included a couple of excerpts here. Two main purposes for my weekly newsletter is to recognize and celebrate some of the accomplishments of the past week and call staff's attention across the building to the efforts that all of our teachers have been engaged in. So, for example, this particular one was an acknowledgement of our English teachers during the week that they had participated in the collaboration with their colleagues across the street at Hidden Oaks, and the efforts that our reading teacher, Pam Giefer, had passed along to our staff in helping us prepare to have our students better meet their needs. And then I bring in a quote from a variety of sources that keep us focused on the task at hand, focusing our attention on learning and focusing our attention on what it is that we are there to do. And then the final area that we have been spending some time on, and I won't go into detail here tonight, but the PBIS initiative that has engaged our staff in some school climate And this is something that's happening in 4 schools across our district. We're one of those 4. And a 5th school being added for next year to the state grant, PBIS, and we're excited to see the results in the future and look forward to coming back and reporting to you on that, and certainly see that not only in Twin Oaks but across our district. The Lakers acronym that we have up there, it's a little bit hard to read, but that was something that we established this year through this process of PBIS. And if you've been into Twin Oaks lately, you've seen a number of posters throughout the building. We came up with this acronym for each of the letters in the Lakers. Lakers are learners, are accountable for their behaviors, kind to all, put forth effort into their work, have respect for self and others, and are safe at all times. So that's what our Laker acronym stands for, and we've spent some time with that as a staff this year as well. But as I certainly have come to learn, and certainly research supports this, that as we all know, what a student achievement is going to bring about positive student achievement is what goes on in the classroom. And as a result, I have some teachers who have stepped forward tonight to share with you some of their strategies that they have been implementing specifically in math and in the language arts reading area. So first off, I'll turn it over to Tammy Curlow, 6th grade math teacher.
Hey. I wanted to share with you guys, we have met numerously this year as a math department at Twin Oaks and together with Hidden Oaks, and just share with you some of the highlights of the things that we have come up with to assist in learning for all kids and prepare for the MCAs. One thing that we spent quite a bit of time on this summer was aligning our curriculum with the new MCA 3 standards, which, if you've had a chance to look at, have been, the bar has been raised quite a bit. They are pretty intense, and so it's taken, we've tried to do a lot of things to meet that. And we met with all students this year that weren't proficient or at grade level last year, and talked with them a little bit about what that meant. And I have a visual that I don't expect you to be able to see every part of it, but I'm just used to showing everything that I say. We used this as a guideline with students, showed them where their scores were, where they were strong, where they were weak, and showed them where that aligns with, in each grade level, the books that we're in presently, so they know which chapters are really important for them to focus on this year. And just went through, we found that a lot of kids actually didn't understand their scores or know if they had even passed or not the year before, so that developed really good conversations. We created assessments this year that incorporate basic skills throughout the entire year. We include the necessary vocabulary in each chapter relevant to the standards, and those are on every test. And we've also included cumulative reviews to aid in retention of necessary skills, so we're trying to keep going back so that the kids actually can retain what they learned back in Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. And all of the teachers created a web page on their on our teacher pages that looks something like this. This is specific to 6th grade. This is from mine. But we included on this page the letter that we sent home to all parents just before conferences, stating what we hope that parents will be doing at home and students will be doing, and what we're doing to ensure learning for all and to prepare for the MCAs. And on the right, we included a variety of links for them to utilize, hopefully, at home. And I personally, during conferences, went through this with every parent that came in so they were aware of what's there. But there are a lot of resources that would be very helpful for kids to utilize at home, because not only is the test changed, but also it's online for the first time, and that poses a whole other set of challenges that the kids haven't faced before. So we have been practicing numerously. The teachers have been bringing the kids into the labs and preparing them. And as I'm sure you know, oftentimes when kids get at a computer, they just want to click. And we emphasize so much in math to show, work your problems out. And so these are just challenges we're working very hard at to ensure that the kids show what they can actually do. We were also able to utilize money from some somewhere. Yeah, from the fundraiser for a special program that it's called IXL.com, and this is something that Mr. Black and I have been using with our 6th graders, particularly in the class where the kids struggle a little bit more. They were each able to get their own username and password, and they're able to work from home. And we've set goals, and they're putting in so much time each week. And the neat thing about it as well is I'm able to use it for an after-school program that I've been doing. And this program is aligned with our MCA 3 standards. So it's very easy for the kids to go through and pick areas that they know they need to work on. And what we did at the beginning of our after-school program is I had surveyed kids and asked them what they were most concerned about. And so each week we have a different topic, and if kids want to come that week, if they struggle with dividing with fractions per se, then they know what the theme is that week, and they come and we use this program. And again, I'm not going to go through in detail, but it goes through uniquely with each standard and gives specific problems, and you can work on each one as much as you want. And it's a pretty neat one too, because it does show the kids when they do things wrong. The explanations are that's one of the feedback they gave me. They are very clear. And of course, when they're with me after school, we go through it ourselves. But at home for them, it's a neat component. And the last piece that I have is, of course, we've spent quite a bit of time on the smart boards. We all got those new in our classrooms this year, and we've been working on integrating them with our curriculum and using them to engage students in the classroom. And I did bring a video clip kind of last minute because I thought, again, if I'm going to talk about something, I would want to show you. And so there's nothing unique about this video. I honestly just shot it today because I don't normally shoot videos, but the kids do an amazing job. This is from my group of kids that they came in struggling more in math, and to be quite honest, that they do an amazing job. But I wanted you to see, and I'm hoping that it's loud enough for you to hear, when the students utilize the smartboard, and they're not doing anything fancy on it, but they engage one another in the when they go up, they're teaching each other, and they're all interactive, and that's what I wanted you to hear. And studies have shown that when kids teach, they retain things much more so than just being taught to. So after this, I will turn it over to Melissa, and I'm really hoping that I can get this to work. So, can I? Yeah. Is that okay? Okay. This one. Okay. We'll see.
6.
Oh, no, you
River. -6. No, -6 R.
No, it's -6 R.
Yep, -6 R.
Because negative
Oh,
is bigger
plus,
than
that's
3.
minus. Plus. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of 6, so -6 equals -6 R. And then what I do over here, I have to do over here. So 24 minus 6 is 18. 18. So now I'm going to divide this by 6 just to get. Wait, is that R? 34 subtract 6? That's 34. It's 24. Oh. And then 18 divided by 6 equals 3. Should I check it, Miss Carlo?
You know what? What do you guys think about what she just did?
Wait, that's right. Wait, no, it's going to be. Yes, we can make it.
Let them think. Oh, good thinking.
That's because the R was negative, so.
Look at the 6 in front of the R. Yeah. So we really would have divided by -6. There. That's the easiest way to see it. Nice job. That's perfect.
Is that
But that's it. I'm handing it over to Melissa.
6.
Oh, no.
River. Next.
And then,
Good evening. So, switching gears, talking about language arts, English. We have also been meeting collaboratively as a department, and some of the things that Tammy talked about that were going on in the math department, we've also been doing. We felt as English teachers, and I know in talking with our colleagues in the math department, that kind of creating a unified, even across the departments, was important. So the letter that Tammy shared for math, we had a similar counterpart for English language arts that went out to families during conference time. We have also been meeting with students about their scores. We actually met with all of our students to discuss their scores and talk to students about not only passing the test, but also showing growth. So here's where you're at. How can we move you ahead and develop those skills? We have also spent some time confirming that our curriculum is aligned with the standards. We'll have the opportunity we'll have to realign that as the new standards have been adopted, and then we'll be next on the list for the MCA 3s coming up. We've also been involving students in just dialogue about the test and the whole idea of well, why do we take it? And not only that, but what does it say about me? What does it say about my learning? Kind of creating some personal investment in the test. So that's not just something that happens on the teacher side of things, but really they're taking the test, and there's some investment there in their time and energy and going into preparing for the test. Things that we've just been doing in our language arts classrooms and English classrooms. A couple of years ago, we adopted the reading workshop model, and really just have been students have just latched on to that idea and have kept moving forward with that. It really allows students to practice developing their reading strategies in a place that is appropriate for them as individuals. It allows us the maximum opportunity to differentiate across the classroom. When you've got students with different reading levels in there, we can all be practicing the same strategies, but we're practicing it with a text that's just right, for me at my desk and for that student at his desk. So using those just right texts and keeping students involved in, how do they know what's a just right text? And we're very fortunate in that they come up a lot sometimes from the elementary with a lot of that knowledge already. The other thing with independent reading is just gaining some sustainability, basically their reading endurance. The MCA reading test is pretty intensive reading experience, and for some of our students who are more reluctant readers, that can be a real challenge for them. I had some very honest conversations with students when I was talking to them about their MCA scores and the honesty of a child. Well, maybe I should read the entire passage before I try answering the questions. Yes, that's a good idea. But I get bored, Mrs. Canetto. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. And so having some of those conversations, because that's just the reality of it sometimes. We've also been working with students on vocabulary for the last couple of years, building their vocabulary background and knowledge. That's one of the things that research has shown, that students oftentimes, if they encounter a word they don't know, it can create kind of a block for them, a mental block. Some kids can get over it, some kids struggle with it, sometimes they get caught up in trying to figure it out. And so using strategies with that, but also exposing students to vocabulary that they are going to encounter. Especially the vocabulary curriculum we currently are using, those words are all pulled from standardized tests, ACT, SAT words, but they're also very high frequency words in terms of their independent reading. I read a lot of young adult literature, and I constantly am highlighting words that have popped up on vocabulary lists. Test-taking strategies, the reading test, really focusing on how do you tackle a test in that format, in that way. We really pride ourselves on engaging students in a critical literacy environment where we're talking about text and we're analyzing text and we're going in-depth in text. And that's very different from how they're tested in terms of reading. And so we really have to find that balance of teaching them how to take those tests, but also continuing to develop them as readers as well. So we've been working on some of the vocabulary in terms of tests like signal words, like when the question asks us to identify, what does that mean? What am I looking for then in my answer? Allowing students to reference text, to engage them in the practice of rereading something. Well, I didn't understand it the first time. now I need to go back and understand that I always have the opportunity to reread to clarify my own understanding because they aren't able to ask questions in that testing environment. And then HUGS is this strategy that we've implemented across all grade levels, so there's a vertical piece there, so that as students continue in the grades, they're already familiar with these proven kind of time-worn strategies for engaging in a text, highlighting, underlining, glossing, and then summarizing the text, working with that. And then this year we implemented, at least at the 7th and 8th grade level, students are engaged in an activity called Article of the Week. And we have worked really hard to find articles that are engaging for middle school students that are not things that they might typically read in any of their content area classes, so nonfiction text that moves away from the textbook. So we found articles, my 8th graders today just turned in their responses to an article about how the teenage brain works and how it develops. And so we're able to not only have an exposure to a nonfiction text, but also have some discussion based on that text. They have to annotate the text using like a HUGS type strategy so that they're really showing what they're thinking as they're reading and engaging in their reading that way. And it's been interesting. We've had some really good conversations about some of the articles because it's not things that they would typically choose for themselves necessarily, but yet really engaging content. So that's what we've been doing.
Thank you. And I'd just like to make one final comment, Chairperson Pratt and Dr. Gruber. As you know, we had a social studies teacher who was nominated for the Daughters of the American Revolution contest for a history teacher. And we were informed today that Mr. Dapper was selected as the Minnesota representative for that moving forward to the national contest. So not only do we have band students performing well and our math and reading teachers and students performing well, but our social studies teacher, Mr. Dapper, was recognized as well.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the band is looking for their xylophone.
The xylophone.
Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Holmberg.
Peeking in the window.
Okay, next on the agenda is, I lost my place here. Candidates for employment. Oh, I'm sorry, open forum. Thank you very much. This is a point in time in our agenda where we reserve 15 minutes for members of our community to address the board on any topic not on the agenda. Is there anybody that'd like to speak at open forum this evening? Seeing none, now we'll move on to personnel, employment.
Thank you. I would like to recommend the following candidates for employment and am seeking board approval.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the candidates as presented?
So moved.
By Stacy, second by Rich. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 6-0. And retirements.
Next, I would like to present the following retirement, and this is the retirement of Charlie Siegler, custodian at Hidden Oaks, and he's been with the district for 27 years.
Wow.
And I'm seeking board approval.
Do I have a motion to approve the retirement of Mr. Siegler?
I'll move.
By Todd, second by Stacy. Any questions or discussion?
I guess I should just make a comment. I don't know the man, but I feel like I should speak for Diane and just say thank you so much for being here for so long and being so dedicated to the district. I'm sure you did a great job.
Well, it's so important that, you know, our buildings are welcoming and clean and inviting for students to have a good learning environment. So it's an important job, and we appreciate his years of service. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 6-0. And leave of absences.
And lastly, I present the following leaves of absence and am seeking board approval.
We have a motion to approve the leaves of absence.
I'll make the motion.
By Mike, second.
Second.
By Lee. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no old business, so the first item of new business is a major magnitude field trip for the band. How you doing?
Good evening, Dr. Gruber, Chairman Pratt, members of the board. I stand before you this evening seeking approval for a major magnitude field trip for the band for Italy for 2012, next spring break. For this, I've gone ahead and gone through the policy 610 for the major magnitude field trips and have gone through each item that the board requires for this process. So beginning with item C, procedures for gaining approval for major magnitude field trip. The trip is related to the activity because it'll be a performance trip, and leading up to that time, we'll be able to focus on the Italian influence in music, which, if you're at all familiar, is pretty substantial. The location will be the Sorrento, Isle of Capri, Amalfi Coast, Pompeii, Orvieto, and Rome. The dates are Thursday to Thursday is what we're hoping for, and that may be an issue of some discussion this evening. Or Friday to Friday, possibly Saturday to Saturday. There's some openness there, and that's addressed in item F later down the road. School days involved could be up to 1 or possibly 0. The itinerary was forwarded earlier on, and again, this is a very tentative itinerary and based on some of what local high schools are doing even this year already. We're working with the Carlson Group. Transportation plans, of course, will arrange for school busing to and from the airport from the high school. Scheduled air carriers, of course, to Rome and back, and private motor coach use while we're abroad. Housing plans, 6 nights in the hotel, double occupancy, 3 to 4 star hotels with private bath. I think everybody will be happy to have that part in there. And we're looking at about, of the 196 eligible students in grades 9 through 11, I would expect about 100 students to sign up. And again, the individual cost is going to run between $2,750 to $2,900. That's based on a present estimate from Carlson Wagonlit of about 26. Numbers can fluctuate. The seats haven't been put out into the air inventory yet and likely won't be until 11 months prior to departure. So there's a little bit of wiggle room in there yet. You'll note that the estimated cost is higher than what they've put out there. And this helps us cover things like instruments. We now have to pay for our second check bag, which when we carry instruments with us is our second check bag. So we have that expense that's in addition to what's provided for the tour. As we get down further here, a note from our travel providers, the Thursday to Thursday, if you look at the dates we're looking at, that Friday is the end of the third term there, and so that Friday would be a non-student contact day. If we leave on that Friday, that Thursday to Thursday, it could be as much as $150 cheaper. And I guess we're looking for the flexibility that if Thursday to Thursday is the cheapest day, can we go on those days? If it's Friday to Friday, can we go on those days? Or Saturday to Saturday? And I guess that's what we need to determine. At 100 travelers, that would represent potentially a savings of $15,000. So that's something I'd ask the board to consider. Plans for funding the trip. We're already under process. The boosters have established a few dedicated fundraisers for flower baskets and coupon books that are ready. There are some students who have monies available for future trips. This is anticipated that we would continue with those through administrative processes. Student savings accounts, summer jobs, the kids are aware that these things happen in band and have been saving and or will likely continue to save, as well as generous gifts from family members. It's amazing who comes out of the woodwork sometimes. Our tour company is the Carlson Wagonlit Group, formerly Macy's. We worked with them on a number of different tours, including our last 2 trips to Spain and to China, both respectively. And I'm not requesting any modifications of the board policy. And so this would mean that we would bring chaperones at least 115 as outlined in Section D of Line 9 of Board Policy 610. So we'd be at least 115 as per board policy. We tend to average about 1 to 12 in the past. And then I've included a narrative in your packet here. I mean, it's no secret. Our bands have traveled abroad, and we've been very grateful representatives and ambassadors of our school district and our communities. And we've been very well received abroad. It addresses the issue of Italy. There's so much to see historically, musically, and great venues to perform. And again, I think I addressed that. I chose this tour destination specifically because it was in line with what we paid for, economically at least, with our Spain tour 2 years ago. And I think that's a rarity. We looked at several other destinations that have gone up quite a lot. I'd just like to note that these tours are often life-changing for students. And this may be very well the only time some students see the world outside of our own country. Some previous students have been so enamored with travel and foreign cultures that they pursued international careers in business, law, travel, and languages, and still others simply return to band locales to more fully explore, broaden their scope and perspective. Regardless, the importance of these tours to students and families is evident at graduation parties of seniors as they share these life in school defining moments with their family and friends. And as I've noted here in our final paragraph, there are still many groups in our area that are traveling, including Lakeville South, Chaska, who are attending a trip of this magnitude. I think Chaska, may actually even be going to Italy this spring break. And so I guess with this, I respectfully submit this proposal for consideration.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the major magnitude field trip?
I'll make the motion.
By Mike, second.
Second.
By Todd. Questions, discussion?
I think one of the questions that Keith raises is which day would be appropriate for him to leave. It's probably.
I guess that was going to be one of my questions, one of the other board members. You can schedule finals. You mentioned it was the end of the term. You can schedule final exams around the test, given the timing and to the end of the period.
Right. I talked that over with my boss. We've talked that, and we think we can make arrangements to make that work. I mean, as far as that goes, I mean, I'm happy to sit in the lecture hall the night before and administer tests. I mean, I've done the ACT before, so if there are teacher concerns or other concerns, I'm happy to shoulder that responsibility, certainly.
How does that missing that day of school go against the 10-day policy?
School field trip does not.
So it doesn't?
It doesn't come against the students, no.
Okay. I have another question.
Please.
I realize that you've been using Carlson for a while and you're very comfortable with them. Have you, or are you ever considering using another travel agency, getting a comparison quote? I mean, it's getting it is very expensive to do.
Yeah, that's true. We've cost out different trips before, but it always it's hard to get an apple to apple comparison because one company might do a slightly different tour thing, and you can't very well go to another company and say, hey, we want this, can you do it cheaper? Because a lot of this is kind of Macy's, I still want to call Macy's, Carlson's thing. So when they submit, you kind of have to go through and, well, how similar is this? There is another company that I would feel very comfortable in using and looking at, and if that's a directive of the board, I'd be happy to get that. Although I know the kids are starting to get anxious, I'd like to have a.
I mean, I guess I'd just like to make sure that we're getting the best value. Some travel agents, there are some local ones that we have, and there are some that will offer something different that might be a value that Carlson wouldn't offer, or vice versa. I understand that. I just want to make sure we're getting the best value. And I know there's a comfort level, and you're taking that many kids overseas. We want to make sure you're comfortable with the travel agency.
Yeah.
I am concerned about the missing school, whether it goes against the 10 days or not, because it's hard to justify that. It's a great learning experience.
Right.
You know, they're probably going to learn more that day being gone than they will in school that day, probably, because they'll be thinking about the trip.
Right.
But that is a concern.
Absolutely, and I have to echo that. That's why I'm here bringing a discussion, and I don't know that we made a decision prior to that either. I don't know. I couldn't look at the number at 15,000 and go, I don't know. That's a lot for me to shoulder on that, and so that's I'm here for that as well. But I thought I would be remiss if I weren't to at least bring that up.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that.
So are you looking for the motion to include that recommendation or that constraint, or are you asking for the flexibility to keep that constraint open?
I guess I would like to know if you're willing to allow us that, should that be the least expensive option, to be allowed to do that. I guess that would be my preference. Because if the least expensive date is Friday to Friday, yeah, let's do that. Although it'll be interesting to note that this will be Holy Week, and so the return home would be potentially Good Friday out of Rome. Could be interesting. I don't know how that would. I imagine most people would be going there, but that's kind of another little. We'll see.
Maybe we should travel Saturday to Saturday. It's usually the quieter day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess I would ask Mr. Lund, I mean, having a high school student, I know that most of those last couple of days are focused on final exams. Do you see a conflict in student learning?
With the wrestling tournament this year, the state wrestling tournament, and a finals week, and we managed to work it out. Generally, we run finals. It's one day, evenings one day. Given the time, our staff, I believe, would have no problem adjusting. I don't mean to speak for them all year. That's my opinion.
Okay.
I think this is a tough one because, it's not completely apples to apples with sport activities, because those, hey, if you make state, great, miss your day of school, there's not really an equivalent for you guys per se that you'd say, well, because we excelled, we got this opportunity. So, but at the same time, it's the, what precedent are we setting? But I think, again, we've sat up here at this board table on many other things and talked about the financial impact of this or that, and I think we'd be a little bit of talking out of the other side of our mouth if we said, well, we're worried about finances here, but the families, that's too bad. So I guess in this one case, if it really is going to be, because even $150 for some families is that's a significant amount of money, quite frankly. So I'm willing for this year, if it is that, you've got my support for this year.
Okay. Yes, Rich.
When would you know the cost differential?
Well, that will be better defined 11 months prior to departure, so that would be probably mid-April. Looking out there, it's not far off. Would that be 11 months?
Yeah.
Probably late April, early May. And we won't probably have contracts or anything signed, but technically I'm not really supposed to talk about where we're going until we have approval from the board, and the kids are they're really chomping at the bit. I really have to keep them off. So.
Is there a minimum number of students required for the tour?
There isn't necessarily a minimum number, but I do want to ensure that we have a representative group. I'm not going to take a band that will be incomplete. When 2001 came by, we put forward a jazz band trip to China, and we just ended up not having a complement of jazz band members that made it work. And of course, it ended up being the year that September 11th happened, and we tried some other things, and it just ended up not working out. And I guess this is where I would say it's largely market driven. If parents really are desirous to see this occur, they'll sign up. Given what the level of interest that I've been getting from parents, I would suspect that we would be in good shape. So I don't have a bottom number, but it depends on instrumentation. I would like to see, close. I think, from a marching group, something like this size, we've really held steady at about 100.
Keith, I just have a question.
Sure.
Given the expense on this, is there scholarship opportunities for kids who can't?
Right. Well, the fundraising thing, we did have a couple students who completely their options. And our last tour in Spain, we did, on the initial sign-up, ask families that if they were able to also help with another student, if they were able to do so, to what degree. And then on the same form, we also asked if this trip is only possible with some assistance, and if you're comfortable letting me know to what amount in your family budget that would be allowed, I can get back to you essentially to see where we're at. So there's not a scholarship fund per se, but we have had some generous donations from some families and some private sources that way. So, yeah, being a farm kid from Iowa, gosh, I look at this and I go, good Lord.
It's a lot of
Yeah,
fundraising in a
well,
year. I've raised that much for a trip to Europe, but it took us 2 years, so.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's significant.
And just a point of clarification, there's not a major magnitude trip this year, right? It's really, you're taking a year off and this is the next one?
Well, yeah, the band, we would have gone 2 years ago, so we went in 2010. Tom has, with the choirs, had been going on alternate years, and for his own reasons opted not to put one forward this year. So there's kind of a lot that went into that, I think. But
Well, I was thinking, as far as the band, though, specifically, you've skipped a year.
Yeah.
Kind of following the board recommendation that we go every other year, and I appreciate that because of the, as Mike said, the financial burden on families to do these trips.
Is everyone in band available to do it? I mean, ninth grade
all
through
grades 9 through 11 in next year's sophomores to seniors. So, given that we have 196 students currently eligible to go, frankly, I'm not interested in taking that many. I think we'll get enough in those 3 levels of grades.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Thank you for your complete itinerary and plans for options, and I think it sounds like a great trip.
Okay.
I guess then per policy, he will come back then with the final dates and the list of chaperones and all the other
My guess is if
information
we
required in the
if we
policy.
approve the major magnitude trip, we would not come back before the board.
It would not come back.
They come back to me with and to Mr. Lund with a who's going, itinerary, final destination, all of that. But no, it doesn't necessarily have to come back to
Then
the board.
administration makes sure that they conform to the policy.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
That's all covered under item D in the 610 policy.
And that would include the chaperones as well, and I think from years past, you have more than enough chaperones. They're usually great trips, so.
So is there any objection to taking, we have a motion on the table, and I can't remember who made it. Is there an objection to having the motion include the flexibility of the Thursday leave, or is it the consensus of the board that we should stick to the Friday to Friday at a minimum?
I think the understanding is that you take the lesser cost trip.
Okay.
So yes, I guess there is that flexibility, but.
We'll leave it up to administration to decide whether it's worth the value.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have a motion on the table and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 6-0.
All right.
Thank you.
Very much. I will leave you.
So where do we sign up to chaperone?
Next, we have a major magnitude field trip for robotics. Mr. Lund.
I'm hot off the press for Mr. Pasquero. 2 weeks ago, we hosted here in our middle school team water, won the state competition. 7 students on that team have been invited down to St. Louis for the world competition. And then this past weekend up in Duluth, our King Tech robotics team took second, one of their best placing in the regional, and for the 3rd year in a row, they won the chairmanship award, which is the highest award besides winning first place. It's actually considered higher than first place attained, and that also earned them an invitation to the Nationals. The Nationals are in St. Louis this year. I think, does everybody have in front of them? This year, the team will be traveling by bus. It's a much cheaper option. Airfare at this late, I think when I talked to Joy, said it was almost $700 a ticket. You know, and you don't book because you got to wait to see if you win. And so the itinerary is in front of you. They could leave on Tuesday night. There is a whole ceremony on Wednesday. Joe and I talked about that, trying to minimize the time out of school. He would like to take them out at 12:30, basically missing the last couple hours to load the bus, drive all night to get down to St. Louis to really take part in Thursday and Friday, which are more the practice. For Thursday, Friday, Saturday, which are the practice rounds, skip some of the pomp and circumstance all day Wednesday to keep the kids in school. You see a tentative itinerary there of when they're going. Cost $500 to $700 per student, $750. Depending on the fundraising, Mr. Pasquero and I actually talked about that a couple weeks ago. He's pretty solid on his numbers. You'll see the chaperones listed down below. Mr. Bohm will be going, and it says 2 other district employees. And correct, it's middle school.
Brent Stuffed, I think this Brent Stuffed was.
Brent Stuffed, and possibly one other middle school chaperone who was on there. So, and I will keep track of that. But Mr. Pasquero and I talked. They will meet or exceed the board policy on 15-1 on the chaperones, either school employees or their spouses. In fact, it sounds like it may be closer to 10-1 or 12-1. I'm not sure how many kids on the King Tech team. This is the 3rd year in a row that they've been invited. The last 2 years it was down in Atlanta. This year will be a little more cost efficient of a trip because it's down to St. Louis.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion, and I'll ask that we entertain a motion for the schedule as presented to leave early on April 27th. Do I have a motion to approve the major plan? By Stacy, second. By Mike. Any questions, discussion?
I guess I'm a little bit confused. He talks about Atlanta competition, but this is in St. Louis?
Yeah,
What's
they got back Sunday night, and he tried it. It's in St. Louis. You'll also notice that it says the Georgia Dome. Not the Georgia Dome, it's the what? Edward Jones Dome.
Okay, so
Swansea trying to copy the itinerary. Yeah.
Both teams are then going to the same competition?
Both teams are going to the exact same place. We'll be staying in the same place. We'll be traveling together.
And I think like any other activity that we have, they had the this comes with less notice than we normally require because of the fact that they did qualify and
right, and actually started doing the itinerary before they left for Duluth. We wanted to get something forward tonight instead of delaying until
April 11th.
April 11th is the next board meeting. So Eric and I noticed that, and Joe, when I talked to him just before the meeting, said, "Oops, I said, we know where you're going." He talked to me extensively 2 weeks ago after Water won the state, or last week, I guess, before they left for Duluth.
Okay.
And is the water team the girls' team?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought.
The water team's girls.
Is it? Because there's earth and fire and water or something? Oh, ice, okay.
It's Brent Stuff's team, I know that.
Brent Stuff's team, okay.
Okay.
They had 3 teams there. It was a great competition. I apologize for not knowing that.
I didn't.
Okay, any other questions that we have? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 6-0, and good luck to the teams.
Yeah.
Next, we have a staff development trimester 2 update. Mr. Service and Ms. Erpenbach.
Good evening, Chairman Pratt, Dr. Gruber, members of the board. Sheila and I are here tonight to present a few highlights from staff development and what kind of went on during the second trimester. We were engaged in many different district and building initiatives, but we're just going to highlight 3 of the key initiatives that we focused a lot of time and resources on in the second trimester. Sheila's going to highlight 2 that took place primarily at the elementary level, and then I will finish with vertical teaming at the secondary level.
As Eric mentioned in your specific trimester report that you have in front of you, there's a lot more detail, a lot more information, but we're just going to touch on just a few. As you know, this is year 2 implementation for our reading language arts adoption, and we are focused on a balanced literacy approach. And Melissa Knettel recently spoke to, in the middle school, the Reader's Workshop model that they're using, which has been in place in the elementaries for some time. This year, we have phased in the District Language Arts Committee, went ahead and purchased, or the district purchased for us, the benchmark assessment system, and that's put out by Fontes and Pinnell. And that is a leveled literacy intervention model, and teachers use those assessments to gauge what level the students are reading at, which then in turn helps them to kind of plan and drive their instruction. Our goal is to meet the needs of all learners, and with the differentiation that's taking place across the district in all areas, reading language arts, with it being a balanced literacy approach, we're really looking for a variety of ways to really meet the needs of those kids. And so those assessments are given. The assessments then are taken, and students are put into small groups. It's a small group instruction focus. And as you can see here in the picture too, students are receiving some instruction at their level. They use authentic text, which is really important, and it can be used for students who struggle all the way up to students who really need to be challenged. So it's for all levels of learners. We recently had Tammy Jones, who is one of the consultants from Benchmark Assessment, come to our district, and that was complimentary with the purchase of the assessment, so we invited her to come. And we took some students that we currently had in our classrooms and invited teachers also to come in and watch how she models guided reading lessons that take place, so that teachers could talk about their practice and find ways to work on what is best for kids in our classroom. So that's kind of at the elementary level, a couple big initiatives that have been taking place. They kind of go hand in hand. Our RTI, Response to Intervention, is a tiered approach. The bottom tier is Tier 1, and that's our core instruction, where we have the majority of our students. Along with the core, there are always interventions that take place to meet the needs of all those learners, but as they move up that tier to Tier 2, they get a little bit more interventions that might take place if they're struggling a little bit, and they're identified once again through these assessments that are taken. And if they are a Tier 3, which is the very top, they do receive some more intense intervention. And through the RTI model, we are doing things like power half hours. We're doing a lot more things to really hone in and specifically gear it towards those students who we need to bring up to grade level. With this RTI model, they have a couple of the angles. They have the academic pieces, which we currently have in place in grades K through 2. Next year, grades 3, 4, and 5 will also be brought up to speed on the RTI philosophy and what things they can do to help their students. The other piece to this triangle is, as was mentioned earlier from our middle schools, is the PBIS portion, and that again stands for positive behavioral intervention supports. And it's about establishing that school climate, and it's a school-wide philosophy where if you can take those behaviors and kind of curb some of those things, you put together the academic piece, hopefully you'll have some great success. And so currently we have 3 elementary schools that are have teams set up for the PBIS model along with the 2 middle schools. Next year we have another elementary that's going to be on board, and hopefully over the course of the next couple of years we'll have everybody on board with the PBIS model as well.
At the secondary level, many of the district staff development resources and time have been allocated towards vertical teaming, and when we presented the trimester 1 update, we informed you that with the challenges that come along with the transition to the 6-period day, there is a very articulated need to make sure that teachers grades 6 through 12 have a chance to collaborate, talk about scope and sequence of their curriculum, and how to, modify or redefine their curriculum so that it meets the parameters of the new schedule. And so on January 17th, during our district workshop, many of the secondary teachers got together for majority of the day to discuss topics that related to curriculum, such as how to modify it, either to expand it to meet kind of the semester parameters or to condense it to meet the quarter parameters. They also worked on modifying their maps and frameworks, and some even got to the point of developing some revised common assessments. And we have another workshop coming up in April, and this will continue to be kind of the framework model for delivering job-embedded staff development at the secondary level to help facilitate this transition. And so those are three of the major initiatives that we've been working on during the second trimester. Like Sheila mentioned, if you want to read more in detail, you can refer to the board packet where we gave an expanded version of this summary. So, any questions?
Yes, Mike.
Can you define the difference or the commonality between this PBIS versus the responsive classroom that I thought we've been doing across the district for the last several years? Is it a different initiative now, or are they in concert with each other?
It's not really a different initiative. It just kind of goes along with, they were looking for something besides just the academic piece and having some interventions in place for the RTI framework. It's what can we do now with the way our school climate is to promote, to set up those boundaries and guidelines within our school. What kinds of positive things can we do to promote good things in our school? And if those things are good and our academics are good, then we kind of marry the two. So they go hand in hand.
And I do believe a responsive classroom plays into that, but that's about the classroom environment and the school environment. This is about setting strategies in place to help students be successful outside of the academic areas, and then being able to monitor those over time. There's some software that comes with it that's called SWIS that allows you to note when a student is having difficulty. And you can look for a pattern then over time. Is a student just having difficulty because it's the hour before lunch? Is it the subject area? Is it because they don't know? So it really leads into the RTI model of what kinds of interventions do we need to put in place for that student. Does that make sense?
Okay, sure. I have a question.
Yes,
Mike. Smart boards, I see for the elementary, your goal is to be trained by the end of this year, right? What's the secondary goal then, as far as smart board training?
The secondary staff are being phased in by content area. So whereas elementary, we did kind of a wholesale implementation, grades K through 5, and they received periodic training until they become proficient, which will be the end of this year. The secondary, we started with math and science this year, and so it's going to take those teachers roughly 2 to 2.5 years to receive all the training for smart boards that we have to offer. Next year, social studies and English teachers will begin their kind of modular phase of training. And so secondary will have 3 phases. The first phase was math and science. Next year it will be English and social studies. And then after that, specialty areas.
Okay. And then one other question, just because I saw it on 60 Minutes last night. You talk about the mentoring program, and they use videotape in the classroom to videotape the teachers in actually doing film study, like a football team would do film. Have you guys thought about that in your mentoring program?
We haven't used that specifically in our mentoring program. I know that, is it Dan and Dave? Do both of you use that? They've used it for the formal observation process. We find, not that we're against using that, but we find that when we can give immediate feedback with someone who's actually sitting in the classroom to see everything that's going on in addition to what's just seen inside the lens, we can provide some more immediate, effective feedback.
And sometimes an observer changes what's actually going on with the students and stuff. The presence of an observer sometimes changes the behavior of the classroom. So.
And that's another thing they can consider.
Thanks. Okay. That's it.
I've just one quick question. You mentioned the transition to 6-period day, and a little bit more, especially since I view it more as a secondary change. Is it having an impact to the elementary, and are we having to do some transition on the elementary side as well?
The only transition with the elementary is we've had to bring together some 5th and 6th grade teachers to talk about transition expectations, and that was done on January 17th, and the middle school principals facilitated that. Otherwise, vertical teaming in preparation for the 6th period day transition has been pretty much a secondary initiative.
Thanks.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, what?
Again.
Okay, I had activities update next.
Sure.
Activities update, Mr. Rodin.
I bet you guys didn't realize how lucky you were. You had Dan and Dave and Eric and myself all speaking at the same time. Some of the greatest orators of District 719. So I promise
On what
I
dimension,
will
on what
keep it
dimension,
quick.
Mr. Rodin?
What's that,
On
Mike?
what dimension, Mr. Rodin?
Nick, did you turn down the microphone so I don't blow everybody away? I'm coming tonight to give you a winter activities update, kind of keep us in tune with what's going on. We've just finished up with all of winter activities per se. Speech is kind of a winter spring, robotics, winter spring. Knowledgeable hasn't quite finished up yet, but we'll touch on those when we get to them. So. I think one of the major highlights was our wrestling team. We finished 22-10, 7-1 in conference, lost at Apple Valley. Took 3rd place in state. Dr. Gruber was down there. I know had a good time. And not everybody knew this, but our head coach Joe Block was named the AAA Coach of the Year. Along with that, in individual state, Tanner and Brady Johnshoy were runner-up. Matt Conkey took 5th, and Tanner Carlisle took 6th place. So, absolutely fabulous season for our wrestling team. Our only loss in conference and in state was to Apple Valley, who at this point is the undisputed national champion. But we don't like to count that. That was from everywhere. So. Girls basketball, 15-12, 12-6 in conference, and you notice conference records. Last winter I think we had a lot of conference championships. This year you're not going to see as many, but that goes with the change to the new conference. Girls had a pretty successful season. Played one of the toughest schedules in the state all the way through. But overall, a successful season. Boys basketball, coming off a 4-win season, had 2 more wins, still struggled quite a bit, 3-14 in conference, but we're hoping to improve that. Girls hockey, 8-17, 6-12 in conference, and this one, Tom Chardon, the sports editor at the Prior Lake American, came up to me in the Shakopee game. We lost last year in sections to Shakopee, and when we were beating them about 4-0, he walked up, he goes, "This is why we changed conferences." Our girls absolutely dominated that game from beginning to end, and it really showed that, yes, our record may have been flip-flop last year. We had, I believe, a 15-11 record, but the competition did improve us, and our kids improved more by playing in the South Suburban Conference. Boys swim and dive, 5-4 in conference, 5th in sections, 15th in state. Kyle Robrock took 2nd in the 100-yard backstroke, I want to say meter. Kyle also, he just missed winning a state title, and with his time was All-American consideration. Nordic ski, we once again placed 2 kids into state, Grace Chandler and Christian, I could probably say that.
Cavalsa.
What's that, Dan?
Cavalsa.
Yeah. And Grace has been I believe, 5-time state placer. Her times have actually gone down every year, but her place has also gone down, so that's just the improvement of the competition that we've had. Cheer, Angie Carlisle took over that program 3 years ago where it was just a sideline cheer, and she's turned it into not only sideline but competition cheer, and they go to competitions throughout the metro area mainly, and also there is a comp cheer competition for the South Suburban. They fourth in state, first in the UCA Nationals, and then the MCCA state, they were in third place. And I had the opportunity to go on a Sunday morning and watch them compete at the UCA Nationals, which was actually in Minneapolis. Dance line, 7th in our conference, 11 out of 14 in section, and 8 out of 14. We've hired a new coach for dance line this year, and she they're having fall tryouts right now. They had 58 girls trying out for the fall team. So that's a program that's getting quite a few kids. Knowledge Bowl, 4th at the regionals. They qualified for state. I believe that is next week over spring break. They will be going up to Pewabic to compete in the state Knowledge Bowl tournament. Mock trials was 1 round short of state. Of the state finals, they lost to Centennial. Our 1 act play, 3rd in subsection, and as Dave mentioned earlier, robotics was 2nd at the UMD regional and won the chairman's award. I neglected to mention boys hockey. I forgot about that one. I don't know why I got to read it. Boys hockey once again had a losing record, 7th in the conference, but then we went out in the first round and beat the Academy of Holy Angels 4-3 in the quarterfinals. The previous 3 years since I've been here, Holy Angels had outscored us 51-4. So once again, that just shows moving into this new conference, even though our records may not show improvement, when we go face the older competition that we used to face, we are improving drastically and we are seeing success. And just talk to Keith about this. They're competing in the conference this week. Our conference actually has a band, what would you call it, a festival. And then the kids go to compete for honors band and state this week. Choir, we hosted the Choral Fest for the conference. That was quite an event. We had the other 9 choirs come to Prior Lake, so we had an opportunity to show off our auditorium and our facilities to all the other bands in the conference. All-state choir, we have Cassie Hansen and Holly Nelson, and then our 9-10 state honor choir is Kellen Gablet and Paul Nasvik. So quite a great representatives for those. Looking at the surveys, once again, we put out the same survey per se, maybe changed or tweaked a few things. For the winter, we had 154 parent responses. And in looking at the fall survey to the winter, the parent percentages stayed about the same. And I can send this out to you guys tomorrow if you can't see this really well. So you can kind of see that 67% were impressed or satisfied with communication. 73% were satisfied with the coach or advisor's knowledge. Program working toward excellence, 72%. Opportunity for success, 71. Quality role model, 68. Standards are set high, 81. Season was enjoyable for our son and daughter, about 75%. Fundamentals, and then professional manner. So those have stayed about the same. I'd like to see those raised a little bit. For those of you that were here in the fall, we talked about student responses. We had 70 in the fall. For the winter, we had 103, and I was very happy with that. And also, the percentages, we saw some definite growth with this. So I'm happy to see that that there's growth within these surveys, that the kids see that we're working for the success of them within our activities department. So, you know, almost 88% feel that the programs are working toward excellence. 76 say it's rewarding to them. Almost 81% say they're respected by their teammates. good communication, opportunities for success, and 3/4 of them want to be working for the same staff next year. And 85 say it's enjoyable. So I'm very happy with the student surveys. A, that we're getting more responses, and B, that we're seeing the percentages grow. So that means that we're doing the right thing. As much as we look at the parent survey, I really take a hard look at what the students say. Because sometimes the parents and the students don't quite see eye to eye.
Can I ask a question about the survey, or do you want to finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
On the surveys, is that, those numbers, is that all the surveys for all the different activities and sports?
Yes.
Combined?
Yes.
Do you separate those out ever?
We can break it down.
Okay.
I would have to sit over in Martha's office and break it down. And what I'll do is I'll break it down then and send them to each specific coach or advisor.
Okay, so when they're filling out the survey, they're filling it out for their sport, but the results that you're getting right now is for all the sports
What
and
I
activities?
just showed you is for everything lumped together.
Okay, because we have a wide variety of younger coaches, older coaches, the new
Yes.
conference and all that, so that might make some difference. I guess I'd be curious.
Yes, you're absolutely right, it does make a difference. But we haven't done that yet, and actually there was a glitch in the system when Martha sent it over, so we couldn't even get all the actual typed in responses. We could just get the numbers, so we're still working on that. Just to update you, when we looked at the vision card in the fall, we talked about the Challenge Cup. The high school league has redone it and put it into 3 levels now with a AAA, AA, and single A. Obviously, the winter results have not come out yet, but at the time that I talked to you in the fall, the fall results weren't out. So just to let you know, after the fall season, Prior Lake High School was 44th out of 80 AAA schools. Looking back, last year we were 33rd out of 120 schools. So, you know, at this point, it's hard to say. You know, we still have a lot of the year left, and with the success of our winter activities, especially wrestling and swimming, those numbers could definitely go up. And that on the bottom there was just kind of a reminder of what the point totals were. So, for instance, you can look at it and say wrestling's going to get 10 points for the section winning, 35 points for finishing 3rd, and then individual sections. What do we have? We had Eric left. Every time I turn around after talking to you guys, everybody leaves. I don't know. I think we had 8 kids qualify, so there's 2 points there, and so on and so forth. So that's where we are with our activities right now. Any questions?
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Good season.
Great job.
Great report, thank you. Okay, moving on to school calendar. Dr. Gruber.
Yes, we have a minor, we hope, problem with our calendar. Our state law says that if a holiday, which is January 1st of 2012, falls on a Sunday, then the next day, which would be Monday, is the holiday observed. So we have an adjustment to our calendar that would have January 2nd, 2012 would be a non-school day. We would trade that with December 22nd, which is a Thursday, where there would be school. And I have brought this before Meet and Confer and our support staff, as well as our administrative team, and everyone feels like this is the easiest way to fix this issue.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the calendar revision as presented?
So moved.
By Rich, second by Lee. Any questions or discussion?
Can I have?
Yes.
I just have a question, and this isn't specifically related to that date, but our spring break moved, and I don't know if you guys previously talked about this before, but I just, maybe if you could explain the change, because we've had that 3rd week in March for a number of years, and why it's changing here.
A part of it is a change from trimesters to quarters, and how the quarters need to have the same number of days in them or a similar number of days. The committee worked on this for a long time, and this became the one way that we could balance the quarters, as well as getting that spring break in with the Easter week, I think is the way it turned out.
Oh, it is Easter week.
I believe it is.
Okay. Any other questions?
I was just going to comment, I think there's some impact with the testing, too.
Oh.
Yes, testing was a lot of,
Okay.
one more thing. State testing.
Okay, seeing no more questions or comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 6-0. School board meeting dates. Dr. Gruber, do you want to leave this?
I sure do. We have a proposed set of school board meeting dates for 2011-12 that will begin with a meeting on Monday, July 11th. You can see we have a few board study sessions put in there, as well as our Truth and Taxation meeting, which is held on December 12th.
I know it's been the past practice to have at least one study session per quarter. We've been over that these last couple of months. But we'd like to reserve those going forward, and it stands with our second and fourth Monday schedule that we've always had. Do I have a motion to approve the school board meeting dates as presented?
Make the motion.
By Lee, second. Second. By Todd. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Approval of the integration budget for 2012. Mr. Holmberg.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Gruber. I'm here tonight seeking approval for the integration revenue budget for 2011-2012. In your board packets, there are two documents. One is the budget worksheet that lists that the district is slated to receive approximately just a little over $16,000 for integration efforts. And the second sheet, you'll see an overview of Camp EcoVenture, which is the activity that we're planning to use for these funds. Camp EcoVenture is a joint partnership. Kara Rickenberg and Carrie Dobie from Community Ed have been working together to plan this opportunity for students. They've been working with the City of Savage and the Prior Lake Spring Lake Watershed District. As part of our integration efforts, we specifically work with our integration district partners, Shakopee and Jordan, to provide programs for students that we make available for students in all three of our districts, Prior Lake Savage, Jordan, and Shakopee. We have taken a step further this year in our planning. We have kind of reached out to connect with the Minnewaukee Sioux to gauge their interest in participating and having their students attend our Camp EcoVenture as well. So again, I'm here seeking your approval to receive these funds from the Minnesota Department of Education so that we can continue our plan and work for the summer.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the integration budget as presented?
So moved.
By Rich, second. By Stacy. Any questions or discussion? So I have a quick question. Basically, it sounds like our community ed offering a program that's available to other districts. Do we have any expenses as far as transportation or anything like that covered outside of these funds?
No, all of the funds that we have listed on the budget worksheet are itemized out for transportation, stipend, salary, scholarships, supplies, and printing. So we factor all of that in when it comes to transporting students from Shakopee or Georgia or reservations to come here and join us for the activities.
So there's no impact to the general budget other than what's reserved out of this specific use?
This camp is funded solely, I believe, either through the integration dollars, and I believe that was the charge that Kara and Carrie Dobie had moving forward. So I don't believe I could be incorrect on this, but I don't believe that there's any community education funds either coming into this. But there's no impact to the general fund.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Did you have a comment? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. We have the first reading of Policy 901.2, Use of Technology.
Yes. And I can speak to that as well as Christy probably could also. We've been revising with the Policy Committee our old educational cable channel use to reflect our new changes in technology that you're seeing as far as the live streaming using Granicus from our website, as well as the new technologies coming. And in addition to that, Christy taking on the challenge of being the sole person in charge of all of these different initiatives and uses of technology in our district. So this is a first reading that has come through the policy committee and is ready for your review. And Christy, did you have anything else to add on that?
No, those are the major changes. We just wanted to make sure that all the events that we have broadcasting through our web streaming fall under the policies we have established, and copyright and so forth. So that's just the major addition to it. And we brought this through to administrators too, so they've had a chance to take a look at it and realize that that's the direction we're moving for this.
Okay.
I have one question.
Yes.
If I can.
Absolutely.
In Section 3, Paragraph A, they refer to programs shall be cablecast at the request of professional student district personnel only. Help me what that means. Professional, what the definition of professional school district personnel?
That means that if they do have to have approval to use our equipment, and it would primarily be used with the cable in particular, our equipment would be used under the supervision of a professional. Is that what
At the request, what is who's under that umbrella of professional then?
Are you looking? Tell me again which sentence you're looking at.
Cablecast at the request of professional school district personnel. Who's a professional school district personnel?
That they would have to go through the district office myself if they wanted to have something taped for cable.
So that's any district personnel.
It would have to come through my office if somebody wanted something taped and then aired on cable.
But maybe I'm not explaining myself. Professional, does that mean just teachers and administrators, or does that mean any employee in the district?
It would be employees of the district.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, this is a first reading. It'll be coming back at our next meeting in April. So any comments or clarifications should be directed to the superintendent, Christy, or the policy committee. Moving on to administrative reports. Dr. Gruber.
Yes. As we begin the third trimester now, there are lots of activities within our district. You've heard about many of them tonight. As predicted, our Bridges enrollment is climbing very near to 80 at this moment. And
77 as of today.
77 with a waiting list. So we predicted that would happen, and it has. And I know that speaks to the quality of the programming and the earnestness and compassion of the teachers there that are really trying to make a difference in these students' lives. So I'm very excited to let you know that news tonight. We are open to open enrollment throughout our schools except for the high school. So we are in this moment taking enrollment for our kindergarten particularly. Those numbers are a bit down this year, and we're looking to add to those. So enrollment is open at any time and open to our students that live within our district as well as to those in our neighboring districts that might be interested in participating. I'm spending quite a bit of time right now watching and participating in the legislative session as the legislators determine our funding for the next biennium, being a part of our state superintendent's conference later this week, visiting with Representative John Klein on Friday afternoon, and then participating in the MSBA and joint leadership conference next Thursday, a week from Thursday. So I'll be getting a lot of information over the course of the next couple of weeks and hopefully get a better idea of where we're going to land. At this moment in time, both the House and the Senate are trying to hold us harmless, but that's at the cost of other agencies. So at the end of the day, what will that look like? Having a voice at the table is important, and that's why I'm going to be at these different functions and events over the course of the next couple of weeks. So I should be able to give you a better update on April 11th at that point in time. But other than that, Our policy committee will continue to meet. We meet tomorrow. And our teacher conferences are this week, and then spring break is next week, which we will probably cover in the up-to-minute dates coming up. But things are going very smoothly as we prepare for this last trimester and are getting into full swing of it.
Okay. Any other administrative reports?
Yes, I have a brief report on our teacher retirement incentive that we've offered, and if you recall, we needed 15 participants in order to continue with that, and we have gotten the 15 participants that we would require, and it does still run through tomorrow, so we'd still be accepting any applicants to participate in that program, but I will have more information for the board after that does close out tomorrow.
Great. Thank you very much. Yes.
Matt, if a teacher would come forward after the 15th, would they still be underneath that early retirement?
They would not.
They would not.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other administrative reports? Any board committee reports? Okay. Looking forward to, oh, sorry.
Oh,
Did you?
of course, why not? I guess student council is just continuing to move forward in our spring events, and we're trying to implement a couple new events, and then also further ourselves in our technology aspect. We currently have a website, but it's been brought to our attention multiple times that it's not really put together very well. So we've put aside a small committee and are organizing that to let the entire district know exactly what we do throughout the year.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Looking ahead at future events, we have parent teacher conferences this week. No school next week for spring break. Our partnership celebration, April 7th at Glendale, which is a great event, and I hope if you're available, you'll be able to attend. PTC Carnival on April 9th, and then our regular meeting on the 11th. Is there anything else that needs to come before the board this evening? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
By Mike, second. By Stacy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We're adjourned.